need it became clear to me that, and I think to a lot of people, that if it was simply left up to the big car companies, we wouldn't see compelling electric cars, not for a long time. And I think that became very clear in the movie Who Killed the Electric Car, where GM recalled the EV1 and then crushed them so that nobody could get them back when California changed its regulations. I mean, that really hammered home the message that unless some new company came along and created an electric car, that it would be a long time before we would see sustainable transport.
Was seeing that movie literally part of your thought process that helped motivate you?
It was, absolutely. I mean, I've been a proponent of electric cars for a long time. I mean, from when I was in college and when I was studying physics, I mean, it seemed just very obvious that electric cars are the future. And I think that all transport, with the ironic exception of rockets, will go electric. It's just a question of how fast it goes electric. And we have a fundamental issue right now where there's an unpriced externality, tragedy of the commons. That's on a scale that I don't think the world has ever seen before.
You mean carbon?
Yeah, exactly.
You think that realization is going to sink in so that we then recognize how urgently we've got to make the transition?
Yes, I do. I think that will eventually sink in. But the problem with that, with the carbon capacity of the ocean's atmosphere, is that it's on such an epic scale with so much inertia that the point at which it becomes obvious that it's a severe problem, it's like imagine there's a super tanker coming towards you, and it suddenly appears out of the fog. You're like, oh wait, super tanker coming towards me. You can't turn the super tanker real fast.
Please blow.
Yeah, it's going to keep going in that direction. So that it's got a lot of inertia, and then the amount of time that it will take to switch the global industrial base to sustainable generation and consumption of energy is going to be measured in decades. So it's just one of those things where you need to, because the transition will take so long, you have to start early. And in order to have electric cars actually sell, we had to work super hard to make the car as compelling as possible. So that's the reason, I think, why the car ended up being a great car, is because we have a really dedicated team that believes in the mission.
Well, I mean, when the Model S came out, I mean, people said it was a good car, but I don't think anybody, even including you were telling me this in the car, expected the scale of success. You said your optimistic estimates were still a third less than where you're currently selling, and you were talking about how Panasonic was able to build enough batteries for what you projected, but not for the, how many vehicles are you building at this point?
So we're at around 600 a week. And our projections were about 400 a week. So Panasonic, which is our main supplier for the battery cells, was able to ramp up by 50%, but it's going to take them a little longer to improve production beyond that. I mean, I expect that our cell supply constraints will be solved probably around the middle of next year, or maybe the second quarter. But it has been good. It's been well received.
It's so well. I mean, honestly, I don't know a rich person who doesn't either have one or want one, and that is kind of amazing.
Well, yeah.
And it is to your enormous credit that you have built such an astonishing car. I mean, I think anybody photographing it or looking at it as it comes down that aisle has got to admit it's one of the most beautiful cars that's ever existed. On top of being possibly the most efficient.